So my name is Shakriya Sanka, and I am a sophomore at Queen's University, and I am majoring in communications. And I'm originally from Iraq, but I was raised in Washington D.C. And so here we're working with the Living Archives Project, which is collecting stories about how COVID-19 impacted the different communities in Charlotte-Mecklenburg County. So today is March 28th, 2013, and this week there were 68 reported cases of COVID-19 in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County, which shows a 39% decrease over the last 2 weeks. Therefore, each subject is comfortable not to wear a mask. So now I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Renata Gandara. I am a sophomore here at Queen's, majoring in business administration with a marketing minor. I am Mexican. I have dark brown hair with a braid, purple shirt, and a white cardigan, and I have gold jewelry on.
Thanks. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about you. Where are you from?
Okay, so I was born in Mexico, and I moved to the United States when I was 3, and I've lived in Bluffton, South Carolina ever since.
And how long have you been living in Charlotte?
About a year, almost 2 now, for school.
Nice. And so, describe your experience during the last 2 years and more of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Transitioning into college is really hard. It hit me really hard having to leave home, where I'm very family oriented. So, having to be home for the first time in a city I don't know, with people I don't know, was really hard. And I was homesick for a very long time. So it was very difficult, along with having to wear masks and not really seeing people's faces, and not being able to hang out in common areas like the dining hall, and not many events on campus. It's kind of hard on the mental health. But we got adjusted, and luckily, cases went down, so things improved from there.
Yeah. And so tell me more about the dining hall. How did that change, and how were some of the events that were held on campus affected due to the COVID-19?
So the dining hall was closed, and we would only be able to take food out. So we'd eat in our rooms, from what I remember. So it was just me and my roommate. We would eat together all the time. We never really went out of our comfort zone to eat with other people because we couldn't. And as of events, I wasn't sure if it was just me personally because I was homesick, but I didn't see much events on campus. And if they were modified with masks and everything. So it wasn't the college experience that everyone described.
Right. And so just explain the time frame a little bit for me. COVID-19, did it start before you moved into college? How was that like when it first hit up until now?
Yeah, COVID hit in the middle of junior year of high school. So my whole senior year was online. In high school, we were all kind of happy that we didn't have to go to school. But then when we missed prom, and prom was canceled, graduation was modified, everything was hard. So COVID was really hard, a hard time, good things and bad things. But once we got to college, I expected it to be a little different than how my high school handled it. But it was pretty much the same. So I was used to it, but I hoped it would have been better.
So you mentioned good times and hard times. Talk a little bit more about that. What were some good things and what were more of the difficult things?
Okay. During COVID, we were all on lockdown, surrounded by, I was with my family most of the time. That was a good thing. I valued family time more, and I got to learn more about my family, spend time with them. I'd say one of the bad things was the mental health. And I actually started therapy in senior year. I don't know if it was just college applications or the stress of college and other things. But I started my mental health journey by going to therapy senior year. Did it for about a year and a half. And it really helped because, I don't know, COVID was really depressing. Very straightforward, but it was like just being surrounded by death constantly in our community and seeing how my family was affected by it through jobs, and myself not like missing out on my like senior year traditions in school. But through all that, I was able to create my small business during COVID. So that's one thing I'm very grateful for. Being stuck in a house all day, you get really creative. So I am an undocumented student. So, and I live in South Carolina, which is a very conservative and closed out state for immigrants. So I kind of had to come up with an opportunity for myself. Since the state wouldn't really give me opportunities to work. You can't work if you don't have a social security number. So I kind of was tired of it, seeing everyone around me working, buying their first car, and I was just couldn't participate in stuff like that. So I created my small business. I own a bakery, at-home bakery, and it was really good. It was fun. Baking was kind of my own little therapy before I had therapy. So it was really nice to get rid of all the stress through that and have people enjoy my desserts and being able to make money off of it for college and being able to support my family. So, yeah, that was COVID.
And so tell me a little more about how your family was affected with jobs. Like, what were some stories that you're comfortable sharing?
My mom's a housekeeper, so obviously she cleans houses in our community, and our community is a lot of retired seniors. So being that their immunity is lower than a normal person, a lot of her clients didn't allow her to come and work, so she wasn't able to work for a long period of time because being in person meant COVID, and people were scared of that. So it was a long time that she didn't work, and like we were very worried. And same with my dad. He does flooring, so also not being able to go into people's houses and do the job that he gets paid for, that pays rent and food.
So, and how, I know that your family is very social, and I feel like that's where they get the most of their energy, and they just, thrive from being so social, and they like to host dinners and parties and everything. So how did that affect your family's overall mental health and just, being?
The first couple of weeks was very interesting. Like, we didn't know what to do with ourselves. We were just stuck at home. Like, it's kind of cool at first, getting to rest from work and everything. But once we didn't like see our friends and families for like 2 weeks, more like a month, 2 months, we're kind of going crazy inside the house, stuck with each other. But luckily, like, all our friends live close together, and we all like every other day we would have someone host at a house, and we would eat together and just socialize, and we were safe because we knew nobody was going out anywhere. So like we didn't have to worry about getting COVID from one another. We even our mass, I'm Catholic, so we were very big on faith. We would go to church every Sundays, and that was closed too. It took a while for them to start doing it online. So we have a priest who we're really close to, and he would actually come and do mass at our home, and we'd all just gather on Sundays, even throughout the week, to just pray and spend that time together. So it was kind of hard, but it was it worked out, and it felt even more valued to have that time together.
That's very nice. That's very nice that it was hosted at your house. So we're like with it, with you hosting and like going over and all of that stuff, was it different because you had to wear masks and still had to isolate, and it just felt weird to be so close to somebody, or were you kind of like you felt safe that it didn't feel different?
It was definitely different hanging around with people you see all the time with masks.
Yeah.
Just for safety precautions, but we just gave each other that type of comfort, and after a while we stopped wearing masks when we were together because like we weren't afraid that we were going to be irresponsible about getting each other sick. So.
And so when somebody did get sick in the community, how was that process? Like, did everyone pitch in, or how did that look like?
Yeah, we were actually the first family to get sick. So we obviously told them after we got tested, everyone got tested, and we have a porch in our house, and they would come and drop food off for us. And so
sweet.
We still had dinners together, and we also have a sliding door, so sometimes we just sit there and talk to each other from far. So, yeah.
That's very nice. Yeah. So you still had that community that they would always bring you food and check up on you.
Yeah.
Were you isolated from your family as well, or because you all had it?
No, we all had it, so we were all just together. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes it a little better.
Yeah.
And so you also mentioned like spending a lot of time with your family. So with being home all the time, what were some new things that, like activities or games or just traditions that started up with, during the pandemic?
So being that my parents worked all the time, having like that time off as a family was very interesting to see how we all work together, like from morning till night, because usually we wouldn't see each other in the middle of the day. So we'd go on walks, we'd play games, we'd watch movies. Like we did a lot of things that we wouldn't typically do on a day-to-day basis. And it was very interesting to learn things about my parents that I never knew if it weren't for COVID.
Do you mind sharing what were some of the things that you learned?
Well, my dad is very energetic. And like after, like usually I would see him come home from work tired, not really in the mood for anything, and like just ready to eat and go to sleep. So having the whole day, he'd be like, okay, what are we going to do next? And like, what game are we going to play today? What movie do you guys want to watch? So it was interesting to see that side of them. And it just made me value family more.
Yeah, that's very nice. I told you your dad reminds me of my dad a little bit. So my dad was also like, it was weird because he had all this energy and I was like, okay, what do I do with this now?
Yeah. It's like, who are you?
Yeah, and then like when my brother got COVID and we all had to isolate, because we thought we also got COVID, so we were waiting for the test. It was very, I understand how you were feeling. And so you also mentioned that it was hard because there were some deaths in the community and your family. So do you mind talking a little bit more about that and sharing some stories?
Yeah. I said that my mom works for a lot of her clients, like older people. A lot of her clients passed away because of COVID because their immune system was really weak. We had like not really close friends, but people we went to church with, like that we knew, our friends' bosses. There was actually a student that I went to school with that he didn't die because of COVID. He actually died due to gun violence. And it was during COVID, but it wasn't because of COVID. And it really shook our community and like the school. And after that, it was just like, it was really hard to see that perspective of like how fragile life was. After that, like mental health really decreased, and it was hard to understand why things happened. But I started talking to my therapist, and she really helped see the good things. She always said, don't look at why things happen to you, but how they happen for you. So that really shifted my perspective.
Yeah. And was your therapist like a family friend as well, or did you like see her, or was it mostly like virtual?
Yeah, she was actually a friend that my mom went to the gym with, and then she moved states and she had her therapy license and she did everything virtually because she lived in Texas and I lived in South Carolina.
That's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still, to this day, have her as a therapist?
Yeah, I do.
That's
We
very
talk
nice.
to her a lot.
That's very nice. Yeah. So, you also mentioned that it shook the community. In what ways, like, do you feel like it shook them, and were they more together, or were they like all scared? Like, how did you all navigate through that?
Yeah, I live in a small town, so I think news like that, like DJ, when he passed away, we had a vigil at the school, and there was literally thousands of people, like everyone just coming together for his family and supporting in every way. And he had a beautiful ceremony, and it was good that everyone came together.
Yeah. And what about the people that passed away from COVID? How were their like funerals held during that time?
I didn't really go to any of them, but I did see like people talking about how close the community was.
Okay, that's very nice. Yeah. So after, senior year, how did you think that we were going to be back on campus for the first year of college, or how was that? Was that still like kind of not determined at that time?
I'm not sure what they had said exactly, but actually, yeah, they said we were going to be back on campus because I had picked out my dorm and everything. So they just said like masks all the time, and like not really having like going out of your dorm for other stuff except classes.
Yeah. And so, how do you feel like that affected you socially coming on campus, and you're a new student? Did you know your roommate before?
I did.
Oh.
She was a friend from high school. She did transfer to a different school after the first semester, but I did know her, so I had a familiar face. That's also a reason I think we weren't as social, because we had each other, so we didn't really care if we went out of our way to make other friends. But
And so explain like your first year of college, like with your social friends, or social circle, how did you navigate through that with COVID?
Well, whenever we would hang out, we would always wear masks. But once we got more comfortable with each other, and like the COVID cases went down, and then masks became mandatory. I mean, optional. We felt comfortable enough to not wear them, and it was normal. I think also having that experience from high school going into college, it wasn't that big of a shift. And having that different mindset from therapy helped a lot. And like it didn't really affect me as much as it did back when I was at home.
Yeah. And so were you or any of your friends like on campus caught COVID, and how was that? Or did you have like a COVID scare where you thought you had COVID but didn't really get COVID?
The first year, I don't think any of my friends caught COVID. Did they?
I believe Sam might have.
That was this year.
This year.
Yeah, this year he caught COVID, and we all had to go get tested, and he got quarantined.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're all pretty safe about that stuff. Like if any of us feel sick, he got tested really fast, so we were able to get tested before anything. Luckily, we were fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And how could you explain, like, from Sam's experience, like how was food, kind of given to him, or how was that process? That if one of your friends got COVID, what was that process looking like?
He said they would forget to bring him breakfast sometimes from the caf, because I guess like now students do food delivery, so they would pick up the food from the caf and then deliver it to the quarantine rooms. But he said they forgot breakfast a couple times, and it just wasn't the same. He was stuck in a room by himself. Like he didn't have any of his stuff. I think just like his bed sheets and some academic work, but we did go by his window a couple times, like sit very far and just talk to him, so he had something to keep him alight through his recovery.
That's very nice. Good friends. So we've talked a lot about how COVID was life-changing in negative ways. but also you mentioned your business, which is a very positive way.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you believe is positive that was an outcome or as in the result of COVID?
So I will say that senior year, I did apply to the Golden Door Scholarship. That was also another reason why I went to therapy, because I did not get it that year. Things just work out in wonderful ways, but that was a bad thing, but it turned into a good thing because I was able to reapply this year, and I was able to receive that wonderful scholarship that helped a lot because of my story with COVID and my business and my resilience through it all. It really inspired them, I guess, to look into me again. And
congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
And so since you started your business during COVID, how was business looking like? Because everyone was, not hosting as many parties and all of that stuff. So what was when did you see things start to peak and look up?
So it started in March, and during that time, just took time to rest. And then it got kind of boring, so I started baking again and practicing a lot. And then I started making these tarts, and I started off by giving it to my family friends, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you should sell this." And I was like, "Okay, maybe I should." And by late May for Mother's Day, I started my Instagram page, and I sold 20 tarts, I think. Obviously, individually wrapped. I would leave them. I have a fridge outside on my porch, so I would leave them outside for people to no contact pickup. So it was more safe. And it was pretty slow, but it was Mother's Day, Father's Day, all those holidays that came back to back, that really boosted my sales and gained customers. And it was mostly friends at first, but then I reached out to other family friends. They would tell them about me. I had business cards. And now I cater for big parties. And although I'm in college, I'm not able to bake year round, so only during the summer. But hopefully, maybe I'll bring it to Queens.
Yeah, absolutely. And so who taught you to bake in the first place?
So it was my grandma. She lives in Mexico, but she visits almost every year. Since I was 6, she's come at least once a year. And from a young age, we're always in the kitchen baking. She bakes a lot. She actually has her own business in Mexico where she sells bread. So I kind of learned from her and got the love for baking there.
What does she think about your business?
She loves it. We're very similar.
Yeah.
My mom says that we don't charge what we should for our desserts, but I don't know. I just do it for the love of it.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, she's very proud of me.
That's very nice. I'm proud of you too, by the way.
Thank you.
And so, where do you see the vision for your business going as a result of it?
So I am a business admin major. I plan to do real estate a little bit after I graduate, just to become financially free enough to open up my own bakery that's not in my home. And I can have an actual building and maybe turn it into a nationwide franchise. Because, that's my ultimate goal.
Yeah. So, I have been to your house and I saw your baking room. Tell me a little bit more about that. Describe it.
Okay. So my house is tiny, but my baking room is shared with the laundry, and that actually wasn't there until COVID, when we did a bunch of renovations to the home. I just had everything in the kitchen. It was very crowded. So then we decided to put all my stuff into the laundry room. So now it's split, and I have a big cabinet full of all my ingredients and supplies. And I have a steel island, and next to a window where I work. Yeah.
That's nice.
It's very packed in there, but
Yeah. And what do you say was like your favorite dessert that you made so far?
definitely the tart. It's very popular, and I've gotten really good at making it fast. It was really hard at first, but after making it for so many people, it's just easy now, and it's really delicious.
And you mentioned that you were making like you were baking for big parties. What was like the biggest party that you've baked for so far?
I had a quinceañera party back in December, and I made 600 desserts
Oh my goodness.
for them. Yeah, it was a lot of desserts. I think it was like 25 different ones, and we do for like big parties.
Yeah.
We do like small cups of things or like small bite-sized portions, and it was a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how sorry. Sorry. So how for them to be 600, how many days would it take you to make them, or how would you prepare for them?
If it's like, for example, icing or stuff like that, I'd make it the week. Like, let's say the party's on Saturday, I would start working Wednesday for making the stuff that I can make that doesn't need to be refrigerated or like I can get a head start on.
Mm-hmm.
And then the stuff that does need to be prepped on that day, it would be Friday, a day before, like fresh fruits or like bake the stuff. I like to bake fresh, which my mom also doesn't really like because then I'm rushed and stressed, but I like to make it as fresh as possible. Yeah. And my mom also helps me a lot, just like getting stuff in and out and yeah.
So earlier before the interview, we did the hand bag activity.
Mm-hmm.
And so what were some of the support systems that you had on like the outline? I know you mentioned friends and family a lot, but was there anything else?
I'd say me.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about myself during COVID, and I think I'll always be my number one supporter. So that was a big one. Mm-hmm. And also God, at a distance because we weren't able to go to church, but everything happens for a reason, and I always trust that I'm on the path he wants me to be on.
Yes. So did you, with like your faith and everything, do you feel like that, how was that relationship with God, and do you feel like you trusted, like, tell me a little bit more about your faith and kind of coping with the COVID-19.
It was a little rocky at first because I didn't understand why things were happening like the way they were and like why certain things were unfair in the world. Mm-hmm. But, it was just like a certain period of time where I was lost, and then I came back to everything I knew, and it was just better.
And so we also listed 5 things that we would describe, where you described yourself. Mm-hmm. Tell me, how would you describe yourself?
I have dreamer, hard worker, first-gen undocumented student, small business owner, and big-hearted.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about dreamer. You haven't touched up on that a little.
I actually have a tattoo on my arm.
Oh, nice.
It is, I say dreamer as in undocumented. Mm-hmm. And it says dreamer, and it has 2 butterflies on it, and it's the monarch butterfly, which is the symbol for the dreamer. Mm-hmm. But I think being undocumented and going through so many struggles as a big community of the United States is very special to me, and it's a big part of my identity. Yeah.
And what were some of the journeys that you also listed? The 3 journeys or struggles that you...
I talked about my scholarship and school, going to college. As a first gen, like, it's really hard to find a college that supports you financially and allows you to earn a degree. Most of them in South Carolina will let you study there, but when it comes to getting your degree, some will just not give it to you because you're not qualified to work. So that was always like a journey, lifelong journey, since I was in like middle school, having to stress about what was going to happen and how laws were going to change, and how that was going to affect me. And again, the scholarship was really difficult at first because it's a very competitive scholarship, and not a lot of people get it. It was kind of sad when I didn't get it at first, but it worked out in the end. So.
Yeah. Do you feel like, so you chose Queens on that basis that it was welcoming first-gen students and undocumented students?
I actually chose Queens because it's a partner school with the scholarship, the Golden Door Scholarship. So I heard of it through their senior year, and I applied to a lot of those schools with hopes that I would try again and receive the scholarship. And that's exactly what happened. And it also happened to be pretty close to home and, accepting of undocumented students.
Did you have like a support system, on at Queens, that supported you with being first gen, and communities that you could resonate with and relate with?
There were like a couple counselors that did understand my situation, like the first admission counselors that guided me through what major I'd like and stuff. There's also the First Gen Club, which I'm not a part of, but I know that's there to support students in. And I'm also a part of LASO, Latin American Student Organization. So there's a lot of students like me with the same background, and we can all support each other. It's a very great organization.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. It was a great story.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. It was great to hear your perspective, and it was very valuable and important to hear and, collect your story and share it and preserve it as well. So,
Thank you so much for having me.